My name's Joe Roddy. I'm the Alderman for the 17th Ward. We're real happy that you could all join us today. This is an exciting time for St. Louis and Central West End in particular. We have worked for years to try to create a car-optional environment, and I think today's a milestone for us as we continue to increase density, lifestyle choices, and so forth. We're very fortunate to have with us today the sponsor of this new development, Eli Ungar. Eli and I have gotten to know each other fairly well over the last several years, and I'm taken really with his very thoughtful approach to investing in real estate, and I'm not saying that just because he's investing here in St. Louis, but he has a unique approach that I'll let him explain, but he's obviously been very successful at it, and we're, as we've gotten to know each other, I think the vision that our residents of our community have for what we want our neighborhood to be is a really good fit for the type of neighborhood he's wanting to invest in. And so it's, I think, a really opportunity for our area to attract an investor like Eli Ungar. So with that introduction, I'd like to introduce Eli, and I'm sure he's going to say a couple things and introduce his design team. Thanks, Eli.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. We're excited to introduce our new development project. I thought I'd just take a minute and give you a little bit of background about our firm and what brought us here, and then we'll answer any questions you have about the design. Our company started almost 15 years ago with a very simple idea of investing in neighborhoods that we felt over the coming 20 or 30 years would grow and strengthen and would attract the kinds of residents and the kinds of community that would support high-quality rental housing. Over the last 15 years, we have been active in 3 neighborhoods, in Hyde Park near the University of Chicago, in the Central West End, and in Midtown in Kansas City. And in those communities, we've really done 2 things. We have bought older buildings, primarily built in the 1920s, and restored them, and we have selectively built new buildings. And in each of these neighborhoods, we have tried to bring high-quality or bring back high-quality housing to neighborhoods that have the diversity that we find very compelling. When we acquired Park Frontenac about 6 years ago, we felt that there was a greater use for the surface parking lot next to it. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out what that might be. This is a wonderful, complicated community, and we wanted to make sure that what we did would be additive. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about what could be done here that would add to the already wonderful neighborhood. And we've had the privilege of working over the last decade with a talented group of architects, Studio Gang from Chicago. And we've done a range of projects with them. We have done historic restorations of large apartment buildings and hotels, and we've done ground-up construction. And we asked them to come take a look and consider whether this could be a project we could collaborate on. And over the last year and a half, in conversations with the alderman and his team and in discussions with our architects, we've put together a plan that we're very excited by. It's a residential tower that you see on the screen, 305 apartments. There are a series of ingredients we look for in neighborhoods that we choose to invest in. One is we want to be proximate to demand generators that, in our view, are less susceptible to the economic cycle. So institutions like universities and medical centers we find to be good growers in good times and stable even when times aren't so buoyant. And so we have, in each of our neighborhoods where we've invested, found ourselves situating our capital and our buildings near institutions that we have strong confidence in. The second is we were stunned by the architectural community that we found here. When I first was introduced to the Central West End, it was really hard for me to characterize to others. There is a sophistication and a diversity and a depth. The buildings here that were developed over a long period of time each reflect wonderful investment in architecture and materials from their period, and we thought that we could contribute here. The first few investments we made were buying existing buildings and in large part undoing the horrible things that had been done to them in the 70s and 80s. And buildings that were built in the 20s really have proportions and materials that are wonderful. And so in large part, our restoration work is getting out of the way and letting them go back to what they were originally intended to be. Here, we felt that the growth of Barnes and the employment that was coming out of it, the extraordinary retail that already exists in the Central West End, the proximity to a couple of universities, and really the adjacency to Forest Park, which is unlike anything else I've seen, contributed to an opportunity to do something that would really be wonderful. And when we think about apartment buildings and amenities, what's on the top of our list is not what kind of refrigerator or how big is the pool, but what is the view and how much natural light and how intimately can residents be connected to nature and the kind of lifestyle that we think over a long period of time will be very compelling to them. And this site for us was as good as it gets. It's not to say there aren't other neighborhoods that are also attractive, but all of our investments have been in this part of town. And until we run out of interesting things to do here, I think we're happy to be here.
Hello, I'm Juliane. I'm a design principal at Studio Gang, and I'm going to briefly summarize to you and explain to you how the design came about. The question already came up. I also will give you just a very brief introduction to the work we've done already, partially with Eli, partially with other clients, to give you a little bit of a context of our work. So let me go back here. Quick. All right, so Studio Gang is a firm of 85 people. Our main office is in Chicago. We have a smaller office in New York as well. And Studio Gang was founded by Jeannie Gang in '97. And Jeannie is the main creative and driving force behind all of our projects. And so I'm here to represent her and my colleagues, and I'm excited to do so. On the screen right now, that's a project we did together with Eli in Hyde Park in Chicago called City Hyde Park. And the reason I wanted to share this image with you is because it captures well one of the key principles that we try to follow with our work, which is to use design to connect people socially and experientially. So what you see there is a balcony structure on the outside of the building that aims to create a vertical community, really. So a neighborhood on the outside of the building to bring people together rather than everyone living separately in their own individual units. A close-up image of that same balcony structure shows that it's an extension of the living room that really extends the living space far into the city and creates that connection. We also do work in the ecological sector. So right on the screen is an ecological framework plan we did for Lincoln Park Zoo. And we also designed the pavilion that is on the kind of left side of the image. And this image I wanted to share with you because we have an interest in creating healthy environments, healthy socially and also healthy in terms of ecology. So we work on projects that create settings where nature and urban environment, nature and city are not oppositions to each other, but can really work together. And just bear with me, I'll get to the design, but there's a few more examples so you have a context of the kind of work we do. We also, besides the residential work, work for institutions, universities. That's a University of Chicago building that just finished this year. It's an 800 bed residence hall. And right now on the drawing boards is also an extension to the American Museum of Natural History, the Gilder Center, which is due to be completed in 2020, and it will offer more science education spaces in New York. And though the residential work is really one of the major kind of sectors in which we operate in, probably our most well-known one is the Aqua Tower in Chicago, an 82-story high-rise where already we were working on this idea of creating this neighborhood, this vertical community on the outside of the building. And just two more images of other projects we've done together with Eli. Solstice on the Park, it's just started construction, so the images you see on the right are brand new images of the construction site. And Shoreland, which used to be a hotel that got converted into residences as well. Now, just a quick explanation of the design for 100 North Kingshighway. We were, of course, very much inspired by the rich architectural history you have in St. Louis. Maybe you take it for granted, but for us to come here, of course, is so exciting to see, all of the great work that is here. The Gateway Arch, of course, with unbelievable, beautiful materiality of the arch and the structural expression. One of the first steel high-rises is also here, which Sullivan, as you probably know, called the father of all high-rises, so that's exciting to us. And then, of course, Chase Park Plaza, one of our immediate neighbors, and the Jewel Box, a really beautiful expression of glass and steel architecture right in Forest Park. So with that as a context, we're excited to create this icon for this unbelievably beautiful side of West Pine Street and Kingshighway that really can create something special on that site. One of the really amazing aspects of the site are the views. So we are pretty much in line with the Gateway Arch. So Pine Street goes all the way down, looking down Pine Street, you see the arch, and then on the other side we are right on Forest Park. So creating a building that really offers this view to residents and enhances these views was really important to us. And in terms of the context, the neighborhood context, we placed the tower portion of the building along Kingshighway, pushing it all the way to the western edge of the site. So the image on the screen north is to the left, in order to complete this or add to the completion of the street wall along Kingshighway. It's an image that shows you how the massing fits in with the existing buildings on the site, kind of filling the gap between Park Frontenac and Chase Park Plaza. And let me now quickly go through a few set of diagrams that will explain to you the shape of it, because I think that's something someone was already asking the question. It's not immediately obvious how it came about, but it's related to creating spaces that have great daylight, outdoor space, natural ventilation, and views. And I'll show you how we did that. So first of all, we started with a basic massing. Again, here you see a diagram of the tower and the podium. The tower is pushed to the street, completing the street wall. Then, in order to create outdoor spaces, create terraces, we tiered the tower and sloped back these individual tiers to create, where you see the green strips, outdoor terraces. So each tier is 4 stories, meaning that a quarter of the apartments now have these outdoor spaces. And then we scallop these tiers in order to enhance environmental performance and comforts for the users. So that's a diagram that zooms into one of these scallops. On that diagram down here, north is up to the left. And so what you see is that we by creating these scallops, we rotated the main facade to the south in order to improve daylight within the units. We also created these corners for each unit. So every single unit has a corner living room. We also have 2 exposures within the unit, which makes natural ventilation much more effective. And of course, the units are oriented either to the park or toward the arch, really rotating this facade toward the views. That's what a typical floor plan looks like. So they are a mixture of studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. And again, each of these units has at least 1 or more of these scallops and corner living rooms. There's a close-up of the rendering showing, again, the shape, which hopefully by now makes sense to you, and you see how that came about. There's large windows, because obviously these views are so amazing. But then there are also infill panels, which are articulated metal panels that pick up the light, changing light throughout the day, etc. Program, you probably know it already by now, but it's a 36-story tower with 305 units, 355 parking spaces, and an amenity deck adjacent to the green roof, and the retail at the corner, which will probably be light food and beverage right here. But it's a great location to really tie together the Central West End kind of vibrant street life, bringing it closer to the park. That's an image from on top showing what that floor plan looks like on the side. And to finish, a few more images about the ground floor. So down here again, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but in any case, the bottom left is the cafe. The geometry comes down to the ground, so these scallops also exist at sidewalk level, creating this really nice niches at the ground floor where you can have tables and chairs and so on and sit. The sidewalk is really wide, much wider than a typical sidewalk, so it's a really nice place, generous place to be. And the lobby is located off of Kingshighway, adjacent to a drop-off zone. And finally, to finish up an image, a sketch of what that will look like on ground level. So again, the left is the lobby entry to the 100, and then down at the corner to the right, the cafe with these seating opportunities within these scallops.
Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it very much.